Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
You're looking at Amy Anderson, a 43-year-old veterinarian from Ocean Springs. Investigators believe she shot the officers after an argument when the officers threatened to involve Child Protective Services.
Central all units, can I have anybody en route to Motel 6? Motel 6, we have in Bay St. Louis, we have 2 officers down.
2 officers down. A call to action that no law enforcement agencies want to hear go over the radio. But that's the chilling language they received at 4:30 this morning in the Bay.
A female heard 2 gunshots. They said one is breathing.
The 2 officers on the scene, 23-year-old Brandon Estorff and 34-year-old Stephen Robin, were told they encountered 43-year-old Amy Anderson sitting in this car with a minor female. You can see the broken glass in the driver's side passenger window. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation says Anderson shot both officers from inside the car, and from there, the situation is felt over the scanner traffic.
The original call was for a guest needing a welfare concern. Bay 35, Bay 24 went out there, and they were on the phone with CPS. And the office had called us and told us that they heard 2 gunshots and 2 officers were down.
12-5 Central 99, get past Cleveland and any other responding agencies around, please.
10-4.
Fellow officers from Bay St. Louis, Waveland, Diamond Head, Hancock County, and the Mississippi Highway Patrol and MBI all arrived to help their downed colleagues in blue. Officer Robin died on the scene. Estorff died from his injuries a short time later. We're told Anderson died from a gunshot wound to the chest. The incident happening quickly, the aftermath businesslike but somber. Officers collecting evidence, speaking to witnesses, and consoling their colleagues. Hotel patrons stunned, and all involved working to process a tragic morning. In Bay St. Louis, Bill Snyder, WLOX News
Still
Now.
unanswered questions about the 2 officers' deaths, and the biggest one is why. Why was Amy Anderson at a Bay St. Louis motel with her small child and a gun? Why did she turn on the police officers called to help her? Through a Freedom of Information Act request, WLOX has learned multiple calls were made to Ocean Springs police from Anderson's family, worried about her and her children and what she might do. As people struggle to understand how this tragedy unfolded, rumors and information started trickling in about Amy Anderson and the ongoing difficulties she was having. Ocean Springs police records show 4 calls and incidents about Anderson on December 13th and 14th. 3 of them just hours before the deadly shooting. On December 13th at 3:28 in the afternoon, the records show Anderson's mother calls with a welfare concern. She tells police Amy Anderson was out of control. She believes Amy is under the influence of narcotics. Adding to the mother's worry, she says there's a loaded weapon, a pistol, inside the home with children. A few hours later, at 7:45, Amy shows up at the Ocean Springs Police Department claiming a man is harassing her. The police records give no other details. At 12:15 a.m., just 4 hours before the deadly police shootout, a family member calls and says Amy is wandering around the house, convinced the mafia changed her locks. Police note that information was relayed by her child. At 12:21, Ocean Springs police arrived at her home, but no one is there. We know from Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall, Anderson checked into the Bay St. Louis Motel 6 at 2:30 a.m. By 3:35 a.m., Anderson asked the front desk manager to call 911. 4 minutes later, Sergeant Stephen Robin and Officer Brandon Estorff arrived and met with Anderson in her motel room. Anderson's 8-year-old daughter and 3 dogs were also in the room. She believed she was being followed by a white truck. A 40-minute conversation with those officers turned deadly at 4:19 a.m. when Anderson shot and killed Robin. Estorff then fired 2 shots, but so did Anderson. Estorff was hit in the arm and the head. Anderson took a fatal shot in the chest. As news of the tragedy spread, Anderson's family members made another call to Ocean Springs police, asking for another welfare check on her and her child, still worried that Anderson had a gun. Police knocked, but no one was there. The child who was in the vehicle with Anderson during the shootout was not injured.
Now, the first question I feel like I have to ask is, would this situation had been any different had she been black? Or fuck it, anything else except for white? Mob gang, what up? Shay's Popalot. We back tapped in. We just pulled up in Mississippi with it. Bay St. Louis to be exact. Now, I know that's a bit confusing. I'm going to explain it in a second. Now, today, I want to talk to y'all about the story of a 43-year-old veterinarian who, according to friends, in an effort to protect her children from being taken from her from Child Protective Services, and would go on to murder 2 police officers in a Motel 6 parking lot about 10 days before Christmas in 2022. And when you look at this story through the headlines, it almost seems like something unbelievable. But when you start to dig into it and you understand some of the facts and the circumstances surrounding the shooting, it makes this tragedy, and that's exactly what it is, slightly more understandable, and it gives you a glimpse of what's going on right next door and down the street or around the corner from you. It's real easy to start in the middle of December 2022 at that parking lot of the Motel 6, where not only Amy Anderson, but also Officer Brandon Estorff and Sergeant Stephen Robin would lay dead. But in my eyes, that was only an effect from a cause that would have happened 5 years prior in 2017. And I believe that to be the start of Amy Anderson's spiral out of control. Now, a few years prior to that, Amy Anderson would marry a 63-year-old man by the name of Royce Gerald Jerry Mays. Now, the New York Post and various other media outlets describe Jerry Mays as a veteran longshoreman who in 2017 was on some kind of short-term disability where he was earning about $18,000 per month. But it would be another title that he would be given and labeled with, sex offender, that I believe started Amy Anderson's spiral out of control. Now, in court documents, it shows that Royce Mize had unlawful sexual contact with a minor that would occur in February and March of 2017. Now, upon finding these allegations against her then husband and a man she would also have a young child with, Amy Anderson would go on to file for divorce on May 22nd of 2022. And after a situation like that, just like you could expect, it would lead to a very bitter divorce battle between the two. And within that divorce battle, Royce Mize is going to claim that not only that his 2017 Silverado truck was either lost or stolen, along with some of his other personal belongings, like his clothing, his prescription eyeglasses, and contacts, but it would be a situation surrounding an RV that would show exactly where Amy Anderson's mindset was at this time in her life. Now, in her divorce filings, Amy Anderson would state that Royce Mize's actions have become extremely damaging to the mental health and physical health of herself, and the continuance of a marital relationship will cause further serious damage to both her mental and physical health and well-being, and the physical health and well-being of their minor child. And if that doesn't tell you enough, the situation surrounding the RV would. Now, in a situation where Royce Mize would end up being sentenced to 10 years for improper sexual acts against a minor, but while out on bail for that charge, after having his truck and clothes apparently misplaced, he would attempt to go pick up a RV that he claimed he wanted to pick up before Amy Anderson had a chance to sell. When he would arrive at that RV, he would find Amy Anderson with two males where she apparently had brandished the same 9mm that she would use to kill those same two officers about 5 years later. And when I look at the story in its totality, not sure where Amy Anderson was mentally before that situation with her husband and the legal battles, but it seems like it was definitely that pushed her over the edge. And when I looked at the community of Bay St. Louis, which is kind of confusing because it's in Mississippi, but when you take a look at it, you'll get an idea of how it got that name, as it looks like a very affluent neighborhood that has bays flowing almost through the neighborhood, and through the backyard you see boats parked. So it has all the markings of an upscale neighborhood, and definitely a place that it's going to be hard to keep under wraps that your husband has been involved in some kind of sexual scandal with a 10-year-old. Now, even though Amy Anderson would eventually move to the neighborhood of Ocean Springs, not far from the Motel 6 where the shooting would occur, it seems like the situation where her husband would go on to follow her, as it seemed like she would try to do everything to change how her life was prior to that, starting a new job just a month prior to the shooting in Bay St. Louis. And though I believe that the situation surrounding her then husband would start Amy Anderson's spiral, but it would be signs after that would show exactly where Amy Anderson's mind state was. As even on the night before the Motel 6 shooting, her family would contact authorities, letting them know that not only did they fear about her health, but they feared about the health of her young child, as she had been traveling with this loaded weapon. And even after being called to the Motel 6 in a scenario where they say that Amy Anderson was under the suspicion that she was being followed, after checking into the hotel for only about 30 minutes in the wee morning hours of December 16th. After arriving on the scene, it was said that officers would have about a 30 to 40 minute conversation with Amy Anderson that would escalate to the fatalities when Amy Anderson would attempt to leave after loading the items from her hotel room back into her vehicle, and the officers would permit her. Several guests at the Motel 6 would say they would hear loud shouting before a series of gunfire. The news would even report that Amy Anderson was handed the gun that she used to kill police officers by her 8-year-old child, who would eventually see her mom murder 2 police officers as well as being murdered herself. And in a situation that probably shoulda and coulda ended up a lot different, it just ends with a lot of questions. And some of the main ones is going to be, do police handle people the same way? And if you have minority, depending on where you at, you know that's not the case. And it forces me to think even deeper, like, would the situation have been any different if it was a black female, a Mexican female, or anybody else except for a white female? And it also gives you a glimpse of exactly how far some people are willing to go for their kids. But y'all get in the comment box below. I definitely need to know what y'all think about this situation. Y'all make sure y'all hit the red subscribe button and the bell right under this video so y'all know when this real Trill Spill shit is dropping. Definitely need y'all in the comment box to let me know if this is protocol, if this is going to be the situation no matter race, color, or creed. Y'all let me know what cities we need to go to, what stories we need to talk about, who we need to cover, what gangsters we missed, what we got wrong, all of that. Tap in with me directly on Instagram, Twitter, POP_ALOT. And per usual, it's your guy Popalot. I'm going to be back on MOBB Business ASAP. Salute the almighty MOBB.